Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-host,
Brian.
So we've got a interesting topic to cover this week, but we also have some news, so this should be exciting. First thing we've got on here is that Disney has released their list of safety measures implemented ahead of reopening, which is probably important to know because as of the time that we're recording this, the park's open in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
God, that feels so weird to say.
Yes.
So basically, to kind of quick cover this, we have a limited capacity attendance, which we kind of already saw, reduced capacity and physical distancing, temperature checks will be taken before entering theme parks. Everyone will be required to wear face coverings, so cast members and guests, as long as they're over the age of 2. And the only exclusion to that is when you're swimming, eating, or drinking. Hand sanitizer and hand washing stations have been installed around the parks, and first aid locations are going to be staffed by experienced nursing staff that have updated their protocols for resulting symptoms and illnesses. That's all standard health and safety stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
On
That's
top
what
of that,
everybody's doing.
yeah, it's, I think probably releasing this to just have a reminder out is a good call, but it also feels like we said before, very like standard.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got increased cleaning and disinfecting, and they've implemented some new resort cleaning protocols. So increased cleaning in areas such as elevators, escalators, handrails, tables, handles, and restrooms. They've also updated their guest room cleaning policy. Before arrival, every room will be given an enhanced cleaning and light cleaning service, which is going to be interesting. And then it will be offered every other day during the stay. I wonder if they're going to, like, sometimes when you stay at the Disney resorts, you can opt out of the housekeeping. I wonder if they're going to do that.
Ooh, I know.
I feel like
I would think they would make it mandatory now that you couldn't opt out of it, you know?
yeah, I was just thinking of that because it says it will be offered. That doesn't, to me, that's like, I feel like you could still opt out, but I probably wouldn't. But we're also going to be seeing a little bit more of the Disney apps used, which, for better or worse, may be a good thing.
Let's hope better.
In the My Disney Experience app, guests will be able to see the hand sanitizers and hand washing locations, explore digital menus, and more. I think that's a great idea. I'm surprised we didn't already have that.
Yeah, you know, the My Disney Experience app it has so much potential to be really, really great, and it falls short a lot. But hopefully this time, with this being pretty important, they'll get some of these little kinks worked out. And also with lower crowds, I'm sure that'll help a lot too.
Yeah, I think the maps thing, like, that's probably fairly easy to, or not maps, the menu thing, that's pretty easy to roll out, I would hope. Like, all you have to do is upload your menu to the My Disney Experience app. How hard is that?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I don't know. I feel like that's good because then if you're on one side of the park and you're like, hey, I want to get this, you know, maybe we can trek all the way over there. It would be better to look at the app and say, well, they don't really have anything I'd like, versus going all the way over to be our guest and finding out that lunch isn't for you and then having to walk all the way back over to the other side of the park.
Right. And that's something that I can say we definitely do. Like, even as many times as we've been, we will still kind of just meander and look at different stuff when we start getting hungry. And, you know, if we're at Magic Kingdom, we might have made a half loop around the entire park before we finally decide to eat somewhere. So, yeah, I think this is good.
But, like, also most of their menus are online already. So,
right. We just never took advantage of it.
Right. Well, not even that. It's just, it feels weird that Disney never actually was like, hey, we have these online. Why don't we just put them in the app?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It was so many clicks to get to it before I would remember when we we would do it a couple times, like if we were trying to go maybe outside the parks, like to one of the hotels or something to grab something to eat, and we would start pulling up the menus and like to navigate through the app, and then like sometimes it really would just be easier to Google search whatever restaurant menu and then pull up a picture of it.
I don't know. Also for app stuff, they're going to be trying to focus more on mobile ordering and cashless payments, which means they're going to be leaning more into the Magic Band technology. Also, like online check-in stuff will be through the apps. I really think that this is probably something we're going to see stick around with Disney. I honestly can't see them trying to come back from that, like especially if they get everybody on board.
Yeah, and that's the thing is this stuff right here. Yeah, it sucks that we're going through this and that they're having to make these changes and everything. But stuff like this, when we're getting more utilization from the apps, more utilization of the Magic Band technology, at least that's kind of the silver lining out of all this is maybe we'll get these pluses from this negative thing that's happening.
God, I hope so. Like, if anything, the My Disney Experience app really needs those pluses.
Oh boy, yeah. Disney, come on. Get some app developers in there.
And then the last couple of things is that cast members are going to be receiving the additional training for both new and continued importance of health, personal health and hygiene. That was more of a tongue twister than it needed to be. Such as hand washing and staying home when you're ill, which like should be standard at this point, but good to reflect back on.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I was just thinking when we went to Disney Springs a couple weeks back.
Oh no.
Well, no. I'm just gonna say that I believe it was like a third party company that was in charge of doing like all the temperature screenings and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering if they're going to continue doing that or if they're going to have cast members doing this.
That's actually a really good question. I would think that if they've hired a third party for just Disney Springs, maybe they'll keep doing a third party.
Maybe.
The question is, and this is a little bit tangential from that, but if they're not purchasing the temperature screeners, I feel like that's probably where they would start using them for like a third party, like if they're renting them. But then that rental cost is probably really expensive.
That's a good point. Now, at Disney Springs, it was just somebody with a thermometer, like the no-touch thermometer, so they just scan your forehead. So maybe they will have a more fancy solution for the parks.
Let's see if there's anything on that. At this point, I feel like we would probably know what their temperature screenings are going to be for Magic Kingdom. At least.
Because I have seen other places that have like the thing that you walk up to and it's the big fancy machine, but I don't really know if that does more for monitoring your temperature, if that's all they're using it for. So
I'm going to send you this thing from WDW News today. Apparently this is what they're doing at the Ticket and Transportation Center. It looks like big white tents. I don't know if that's what they're using at Springs. It's kind of hard to tell from this.
Interesting. Yeah, because at Disney Springs, it was in one of the parking garages, but there was no sectioning off or anything like that. There were just like 2 or 3 separate lines that you walked up and you got your forehead scanned and then you walked in.
So halfway down in this article, it says, once you've reached the Transportation and Ticket Center proper, large white screening tents await guests. Here's where all guests will have their temperatures taken. Much like at Disney Springs, temperature screenings are provided by Advent Health, a longtime medical partner with Disney.
Okay,
so
they are doing that.
Oh yeah, and there's a picture of someone with like the little screener. It looks like they come from vending machines. Is that what that is? I gotta zoom in on this because
I'm sorry, what?
There's a vending machine of some kind in there, but it looks like it holds the same thing. I'm very curious to see what this is, but I can't actually get a good look at what this is.
Vending machine.
Here,
is it masks in there?
It might be, yeah.
That's the only thing I could think that would make sense.
I gotta send it in here, but I pulled this from the article. It won't blow up anymore on my...
yeah, I'm looking at the article now. I just got down to it, but...
It looks like masks, I think. That's pretty cool though. I'm all for that.
I mean, it's good just because now nobody has an excuse, you can't, I mean, not that it should matter anyways. You shouldn't be allowed in if you're not wearing it, but yeah, now you can't say, oh, I left it in the car.
I should have read further because apparently right under that picture, it says, in case you forgot your required face coverings, you could purchase one at $2. So that's actually still really good. And they take contactless payment, which is really neat.
Nice.
That is really cool. I'm very excited for that for Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So next news article we have in here is that tri-state travel restrictions officially extend after Florida has extended their state of emergency. Now, this is only for our listeners in New Jersey, New York, and I think, where's it? I cannot find this in that article again. New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. If you're going to Florida, you have to self-isolate for 14 days or the duration of your stay in Florida, whichever is shorter. So basically, if you're going to Florida, plan for a longer vacation than what you were planning for.
So I wanted to make sure, because I thought I was reading that wrong when I first went through this article. But so that is saying that if you were to come and you wanted to go to Disney World and you were from one of these 3 states, essentially you would have to stay 2 weeks in quarantine somewhere in Florida before you would be allowed to go anywhere else.
I think you're allowed to return home because
to return home. But like if you want to go to Disney World on a 3-day trip, say you'd have to actually be in Florida for 17 days. You'd have to do your quarantine and then you could go 3 days to the park after that.
I'm pretty sure you can come home and quarantine at home. But like, say I went to Disney for 3 days, I would have to come home. It's the duration of your stay or 14 days, whichever is shorter. So I would be able to come home. So this is when you
return back to your state.
Yeah. So I would have to come home and then wouldn't be able to go anywhere for an additional 3 days.
Gotcha.
Because they want to make sure that you're quarantining, which is nice. I get it. And I think it's also great because I don't really think anybody should be traveling. We say this as a Disney podcast, but I just think it's too soon to be traveling. And I think that it's a great way to kind of deter that travel that we know people are going to take anyway. And then the last one, a little bit of fun, exciting news, is that we're going to be getting a new donut shop in the west side of Disney Springs, replacing the Pop Gallery. It's going to be Everglazed Donuts, closing on July 30th. Does not look like we're going to be having an opening date for Everglazed now, but it's the same team that runs Splitsville, so that's exciting.
Interesting.
This is definitely Disney's response to Voodoo Donuts at City Walk.
Well, I will never turn down a donut, so
I'm excited to see if this turns out the same way that Voodoo Donut is. Like, I know you're local, but you don't really go to Universal much, right? Have you looked at Voodoo Donuts at all?
I haven't, but I've heard a lot of people like that I work with that are pass holders at Universal talk about it and say it's really good.
Let me see if I can find you a picture because some of these donuts are just insane. Here we go. This is exactly the one I was looking for.
Oh, wow. Man, that one with the Fruit Loops on it looks good.
It's insane. And then apparently they have like a carousel that has like a bunch of different donut and stuff on it.
That's
honestly
cool.
I would love something like that for Disney Springs because this has been a total success from everything that I've seen. So this is awesome.
Yeah. Did you mention what this is replacing?
The Pop Shop?
The Pop Gallery, yeah. I'm kind of surprised that stuck around as long as it did.
Yeah, I actually, when I was putting this in the news, I had to Google where the Pop Gallery was because I couldn't remember. I was like, my first initial reaction was, oh no, that's the art store at the front. And then I was like, that's not the west side. And then I had to Google it and I was like, oh.
Yeah. it's the other art store that doesn't do the Disney stuff.
I don't know. Like you said, I think this is long overdue, but an interesting choice. I
Yeah.
actually don't think I've ever been in the Pop Gallery.
It's not my favorite store, so I would much rather have donuts, so I'm cool with this.
Oh boy. Well, that brings us around to our show discussion for this week. We're going to be talking about some of the best deals that Disney runs, different kinds of offers that they have, and which ones you might want to look out for and maybe take advantage. So this is going to be an interesting topic this week. I've kind of compiled a list of like the different kinds and like what they are and if they're good. So the first one I want to talk about are the different kinds of offerings that Disney has. We have things broken down in different categories. We have the package offerings. We have the free dining, which everybody should know about, room only discounts, and then the bounce back deals. So all of these I'm going to go over. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things with them and see maybe if there's one that's right for you that's worth waiting for. So the first one I have is the package offerings. So this is kind of a big one that you see the commercials for, like when Disney releases the packages for like stay, play, and dine was a big one that they did. They do packages through the holidays. It's basically an all-inclusive trip. So it's the packages where you get your park tickets, your hotel stay, and then maybe a dining plan included. But for it to be a package deal, it's kind of got to be two things for one, more or less. These are kind of hard to rank on the scale, mostly because they fit a very specific need. So like if you're going for 3 days and the package is 4 days, you would have to book the 4 days. You couldn't book just the 3 days. And this caters more towards convenience rather than savings. So I would probably say this is maybe one of the lesser deals to look out for. The good thing about this, though, is that it does tend to be a good introductory to Walt Disney World, like for families that don't really know what they want. It's a good way to kind of book your vacation and then not be intimidated by the sheer number of things that you can throw in on a trip. Like I said, it's a little straightforward, less savings though, but it's easy for someone to get in. Sometimes the packages actually come with some pretty interesting offerings. Like I found a post on the Disney Parks blog that they did a Christmas package in 2019 that actually included Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party tickets for December 22nd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so sometimes you can get some cool stuff like that, but it's still in the range of like what you're saving. It's not necessarily the best. I think, like I said, this is more convenience than price.
Now, have you taken advantage of these package offerings when you've planned a trip before?
I have not. That was why I think this was probably the harder one for me to look at, because I've never actually done any of them, but I've always looked at them. I don't know if you have, but
briefly, I really only planned and like executed one trip to Disney as an adult, like where I was planning it before we moved down here. And now that I'm kind of semi-local, like everything's different and I don't do a whole lot of planning like this. But no, I didn't take advantage of any of these and I probably should have.
Well, the thing about this too is it's weird because like this is one that's automatically rolled out for you specifically because you're an annual pass holder.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where it's weird, because like if you purchase park tickets from like another site, like I know some people used to purchase from like Undercover Tourist or like AAA, I think still sells them. But if you purchase park tickets from somewhere else, like they don't reduce the cost of the package for the park tickets. It's like you get what you get because you bought in on this. So it's that's where I'm a little iffy on them, I think.
Yeah, but you know, I can definitely see a lot of people taking advantage of this. I know plenty of people that have saved up for a Disney trip are kind of at the point where they're like, hey, I just want everything to be here for me. I don't want to have to think about it. I want to go select how many people are going, choose my dining, and just everything be there for me. So, you know, even if it's not the biggest savings, I think the stress that it would save a lot of people, they're going to be willing to pay for this and not necessarily get the biggest discount.
Oh yeah, I definitely think it's 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 good for a very specific kind of person, I think. Like
Mhm.
if I was uh, I think this is great for families. That's probably the best way to put it too. I think because a lot of the times you see these packages where it's like 2 adults and 2 kids stay 4 nights at Disney for I think it was the last one was like $100 a night or something. Like it was super cheap, or at least that's how it seemed. And then you get like a park ticket a day. Like those kind of things, they look very appealing. And then if you don't have the time to sit and look at everything else, like this is an easy entry. Now I
Mhm.
think if like say I was a parent and I booked this trip and I loved Disney, like I found out I loved it, I probably would dig and not take advantage of it again. But there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of them, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The next one is probably the most well known, which is the free dining. This is kind of a package deal in a way, but it's the one that I think a lot of people take advantage of. And it's historically known to happen at least once a year, which probably should back this up a little bit and say that while a lot of these deals do have some historical evidence that they'll happen at certain points, there's no guarantee that they're going to happen this way. Like, I know a lot of people that would book free dining specifically, like, or book a trip at this time that free dining had happened the year prior. And it's not always going to work out that way. Does it most of the time? Yeah, but Disney, like this year, may not offer certain things.
And anybody that's regulars the Walt Disney World subreddit probably remembers. I don't know if it was just me, but man, I remember it was like at least once every 2 or 3 days there'd be a post like, "Hey, does anybody know when free dining's happening this year? Hey, does anybody know when free
Yeah.
dining's happening?"
Oh gosh, I feel like it definitely did happen every year. And that's the other thing too, is like the big thing with free dining is this really does tend to seem like a huge saving. Um, we'll break it down and then we'll talk about that actually. That's probably a good place to put a pin in that. So first thing to know about free dining is it's resort specific. So if you're booking a value or moderate, you get the quick service dining plan. If you get the deluxe or deluxe villas, you get the regular dining plan.
I did not know that.
Yes. So I think it actually was different in the past. Like I think the moderates got the regular dining plan, but I could be wrong on that because you can also pay to upgrade it. So what happens is, let's say you're staying at All Star Sports. You book a trip at All Star Sports. You pay the rack rate for the room, or basically full price for what the room would cost. And then you get the dining plan included with it based on what it is. If you decided, hey, maybe the quick service isn't for me, you can pay like an additional fee to upgrade it to the regular dining plan. But it's entirely based on resort level, which that's where it starts to get kind of a gray area on if it's worth it or not, because with getting the free dining, you actually pay full price for the room. So at the time that they usually run free dining, it's almost guaranteed, again, almost, that Disney will run about 20% off on rooms as well. And usually the 20% saves you a little bit more. So interesting thing to note. While it is popular, it definitely does not save you the most money. But a couple other things that I definitely want to note about free dining is Disney does allocate a certain number of rooms for these promotions. This is something that I used to book a lot before I kind of really started digging into the packages that they offer and the room deals and whatnot. I used to always take advantage of free dining, and with that comes a couple snags. So let's say I decided I wanted to stay at Port Orleans, but they ran out of rooms for Port Orleans for free dining. If I wanted to stay at another moderate, I could probably take advantage of that, but I'm kind of at the discretion of what they have available. So while there are technically rooms available at Port Orleans, they're not free dining rooms.
So they actually do it on a per resort basis.
Yes. So that's funny enough. The first time we went to Disney, I was trying to book it free dining. And I ended up trying to book a room at Riverside, regular room, tried to figure all that out. And I could book a room there, but I couldn't add the free dining. So I had to call in. And let me just say, if you're trying to call Disney on free dining day, don't. That is the worst thing you could ever do. But I spoke to somebody that was in like the department that handled all that, and they basically told me like, hey, there are rooms available at Port Orleans and you can take advantage of other deals with them, but the free dining rooms are already sold out for this specific, like the regular room levels. I had to upgrade our room to the royal rooms to get free dining, which at the time I was like, oh, that sounds really cool because it was the newly upgraded ones and it was great. And then when I looked at the bill later, I was like, we really didn't save any money with that one.
But you got to stay in the royal room at least.
It's true. I guess that's a plus that came out of it. But also with that, another thing that a lot of people that I've noticed on Reddit specifically don't really know is that the dining plan doesn't cover gratuities. So if you take advantage of the dining plan, don't think it's all included. Don't think that you're paying for, like, you don't have to pay for a tip. Disney does add tips in on the receipt. So when you go to pay with the dining plan, typically you want to tell them before you're seated, if you're doing a table service, or before you order. Table services are the only ones that require gratuities though. So when you order your food at the table service and they bring you your check, you'll see at the bottom of the receipt, it'll have a gratuity column. Now you can change the tip amount, but be prepared to tip because that's not included.
Huh. I always wondered why they asked before they seated you, and now I know.
It's so I've never actually had an issue with that because something I've known, but I've seen a lot of people ask if tip is included, or people need to be reminded that tip is included. Just because like you want to make sure that your server's taken care of too.
Of course.
And then on top of that, like I said, rack rates for rooms, free dining is something that's very easy to get caught up in, because it's the most widely known. Like we said, everyone on Reddit goes crazy for it. I've seen it on the Disney discussion boards and whatnot. Everybody always tries to plan around that time. And really, when you look at free dining, try to look at the other offers and see what else is available. It's good if you don't want to pay for dining, like if that's the mindset you want to have, but definitely check into it because you will be paying full price for that room. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about with free dining, at least on here, is that the promotion usually begins sometime in August for travel dates in the fall. Sometimes it even extends into December. So Disney kind of has a tendency to run this like one time a year, and then it's this big long window that they let you book for. So now, is this something you've ever looked into or anything you've thought about taking advantage of, even though you see it on Reddit all the time?
I haven't personally. I have had friends and family members that live out of state ask me for advice on this, and I kind of just parrot what I've heard other people say, which is kind of the main point that you made, is that it's nice, it's convenient to go ahead and do it if you can get it, but at the same time, if you're willing to dig a little bit, you can save more money in other places.
Yeah. So the next one on here that I have is the room only deals. So this is kind of the biggest one. Disney runs these throughout the year pretty much, like yearly. They'll run it, at least like when a deal runs out, you'll get a new one, and there's almost always a room only discount. This is kind of Disney's way of filling leftover rooms from what I've heard. Whereas like free dining, they allocate the space for them. The room only options are pretty much like the whole hotel. And if they think they're not going to fill it, they'll offer a better discount. But I don't have anything to confirm that. That's just kind of rumors that I've heard. So the ranges that you can expect to see are about 10% to 36%, which is a very odd percentage. And I've seen when they run free dining, typically they'll run about a 20% room deal. So that's just, like I said, something to keep in mind. These are probably the best deals that you'll get going to Disney. And if you want a little more savings, Visa card holders and annual pass holders usually receive different discounts at the same time, or sometimes early booking windows. So like I know for us, we actually, this applies to most of the deals. Like we see the free dining stuff come in all the time too. So like they have a window for free dining where you'll get it if you're a Visa card holder, or you might save 20% while the room discount is 10% if you're a Visa card holder or an annual pass holder. It's kind of hard to predict them, but they almost always have them.
Now we obviously look pretty frequently at the annual pass holder discounts, and especially the Florida resident discounts, which are I have found to usually be the highest percentage off, but they're pretty, they don't have a lot of options for that a lot of times, and there are very few rooms when they do that. But I actually haven't looked into the Disney Visa discounts.
It's lesser over the years. Like from what I've noticed is that looking at this Mouse Savers calendar, they used to run it 2 to 3 times a year with the Visa card holders room only discounts. Obviously this last year was a little different, but the one they're running right now is actually a Visa, or the last one they ran was a Visa card holder discount. It was 20% off room only rates at Disney's Riviera Resort only for Disney Visa card holders.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that some more.
It's definitely a cool little thing to have, and I don't think a lot of people realize that just being a Visa card member like gives you that perk. I think we've talked before about like the lounge and stuff like that, but I think this is probably, if anything, aside from the rewards, the best reason to look into it.
It's funny you say that because, like, yeah, most of the stuff that I find out I can do with the credit card is like I kind of stumble upon. I'm just like, oh, cool, that's nice. Like, that's not why I got it at all, but that's cool. Like, I was just mainly got it for the rewards thing, and then the only other one that I really even use is to get the like special pin when they come out with the Visa pin, and then I'm like, everything else is just like, oh, cool, there's a lounge. Oh, cool, there's room discounts with it too.
I think the hardest thing about looking at the Visa card is like, there's so many weird ways to navigate their website. There's a whole section on here just for vacation perks. Like I just pulled it up now. And then there's there's resort discounts for Disney World. Disneyland has discounts. You could actually, if you book through a Good Neighbor, you save on a bunch of stuff. Like it says accommodations at one of the Good Neighbor hotels at Disneyland Resort or nearby. Accommodations at one of the hotels of the Disneyland Resort or Good Neighbor hotels booked through Walt Disney Travel Company plus Disneyland Resort Park Hopper souvenirs tickets purchased prior to the commencement of vacation with your Disney card Visa are allowed for discounts. That's pretty big. It saves you on everything with your Disneyland package.
Wow.
There's Disney Cruise Line perks. Apparently there's packages for cruise lines. It doesn't have any information on that. And then also like ABD and Alani stuff, there's packages for. Obviously now I can't see them because everything's shut down, but there's links on their website for them. May have to look into some of those later though. But like I said, this is probably the best one. I think this is probably the one that I take the most advantage of now. Like the last couple of trips we've booked, I've looked for room only discounts instead of dining plan stuff. But the last one that we have is the most reliable, and that's the bounce back deal. The way that I've seen it described on Disney's website is, or not Disney's website, but other websites is I already want to come back to Disney before I've left Disney deal. So usually what happens is when you check out of your hotel stay, before you check out, you'll get an email that says, hey, here's an exclusive offer for, and it'll have your family name at the top. These deals are super impossible to know what they're going to be because they change so much. And every time I've gotten one, it's been completely different than the one before that. And everything that I've read online says that there is no rhyme or reason to how they send them out. But what happens is if you book the deal before 10 p.m. the night that you check out, you get this deal that's attached to it. It can be anything from free dining to room discounts, but it's Disney's way of trying to get you to come back. So fun little thing there. Now, out of the one thing I want to do before I talk about this next part, because I think this next part's going to get a little bit bogged down. Out of the 4 of these, which one do you think you would be most likely to take advantage of if you were booking like an out of state trip? Like, say you're not local and don't have an annual pass.
I would probably say the room deals. Now, I know when I, did have to plan our trip before we moved down here, that was one that I tried to look into. I don't remember if we were actually able to take advantage of any of them or not. But yeah, I think that's the best one, and especially because I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to plan out the trip to a T with a spreadsheet and everything like that. I think it's the kind of leaving them separate is my way to plan a trip. So I would probably stick with the room only deal.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the best one. At least that's, like I said, that's the one that I've seen the best discounts on. But the other thing I want to do in this episode is take a look at the 2019 discounts that were offered, talk about some of them, see kind of how Disney plans these out, and maybe give some advice on like the best way to look at deals. Because typically what happens, at least what I've noticed when you're booking a trip, is Disney will put 2 deals out at the same time. So for example, the first one that we have up, you have 2019 from the 1st of January, discount package deals for Play, Stay, and Dine, which was it was a package where you got park tickets, your hotel room, and your dining. I couldn't find the exact prices because Play, Stay, and Dine is a huge package that Disney runs all the time. And then on top of that, you had a 15 to 25% off on room only for the general public. So depending on resort tier, you could get 15, I think it was 15, 20, and 25 were the tiers. Some of the hotels kind of bleed into different ranges. Like I think Art of Animation may have been like a 20% off room, even though it's considered a value. Very strange. But then alongside of that, annual pass holders and Disney Visa card members received 25 to 35% off. So there's that extra 10% bumped up in there. And then Florida residents were 20 to 30. So looking at that, you've got so many options right out of the gate to just book a room, book a package or whatever, and kind of get a deal out of it. But again, I think depending on that package, your 15 to 25 would probably still save you enough money to compensate, because that's a good chunk of change off of a hotel room.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it should be probably your largest expense for a Disney trip. So that's why I think that's the main place you want to look where you can get discounts, is on the rooms.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the nice thing about room only discounts too is that's the part that you really do need to book through Disney.
True.
So realistically, like, you're an annual pass holder, you don't have to pay for tickets. But then I also mentioned like AARP sells tickets. There's Undercover Tourist used to sell tickets. I know that there's a couple places that sell them that are probably more trustworthy sources than some of the places like the ticket counters on the highways in.
But to add to that too, also, if you are a student, look and see if your school offers ticket packages. I remember when we went, that's what me and Jordan did, and it was a huge discount for us. So there's definitely ways to do it, and not just through Disney. Obviously, like you said, if somebody's offering you the $35 a day Disney tickets, they're not real, so don't buy those. But discounts can be had.
And then the other thing I wanted to look at here is, like, with these packages, one thing I always kind of try to look at is the expiration date, because that's when the next package is going to roll out. You take a gamble on what you're going to get next. So like this package ended on April 27th, and then the next one started the next day. So Disney always runs deals. If you think you missed out on one, like, might be better to hold off on booking. It might, like, you can always kind of play the system that way. And then same thing with this one. It was 25% off to 40 for annual pass holders. Book was an AP package. Florida residents were 25 to 35. and then general public was 20 to 30, which again, 20 to 30 is still that's pretty good. And then looks like they also ran a 15 to 25% off room only rates. So I don't know what that was, but then they do this other thing where they book one specific resort for specific times, 20% off of campsites at Fort Wilderness, available Sunday through Thursday was another deal they ran.
That's kind of oddly specific, but
well, and like I said, it's their way of kind of clearing out some empty space. So like maybe at that time Fort Wilderness had a shortage of people booking camping trips, so they were like, hey, let's sell out some of the space in Fort Wilderness. And then this one here this is one that I think is probably important to look at, because I always see stuff like this and I feel like it's very confusing. Get one free quick service meal per night package offer for general public, 3-night minimum. That's free dining. Just heads up. Like that's a free dining plan.
Words.
But it says one free quick service meal per night. That's like the shortened version of the dining plan. Have we ever talked about what the dining plan covers on this show?
I don't think so, because I'm still not really fully in the know about it.
All right, let's break that down while we're here, because I think that's probably an important part of the free dining stuff.
If you haven't picked up anything in this episode so far, is if you have planning questions, ask Mario and not you.
Well, so this is probably going to be really good to cover too, because like if you're looking at booking a free dining plan, like you kind of need to know what you get. So they've changed it recently, which is why I think they probably changed the resort tiers. So the quick service plan is you get, actually on all of them, you get at least 2 meals. So it's good to know you get 2 meals and then 2 snacks, which most of the snack kiosks and whatnot will indicate what is on the dining plan based on the little, like, it's a square logo that says DDP on it. If you've ever looked at the Disney menu, it's like a pink or a purple and white checkered box thing. So with the quick service plan, you only get quick service meals. So 2 meals per night of stay, not day, which is important to know because, again, you're staying more days than you are nights, most likely. And then you get the 2 snack credits or non-alcoholic drinks. Those aren't the ones that are included with your meals. Your meals do obviously come with the free drinks. That's just like additional outside of those. And then you also get one of the refillable mugs at the resorts. So if you've ever been to a resort and you see those mugs that are in the like quick service area, those get linked up to your resort stay. And then you get, like, you can go over to the soda vending machine thing, or not the vending machines, the soda counters at the quick service place. You can sit them down on the little bottom grate part of the thing. It'll weigh it, and there's like an actual counter in there that'll tell the machine how many days left you have in your resort stay, and it'll fill it up to that. I found most of the time, though, that the time that I'm allowed to fill my mug is much greater than my resort stay. So not super important to note, but pretty much any hotel accepts those. It's not just the one that you're staying at. So I've seen a lot of people take them into the parks and stuff too.
That's something that I definitely remember from staying at Fort Wilderness. We had those refillable mugs, and we must have acquired an entire set of those over the years we
swear I have so many of them just like laying around my house. I was cleaning my room the other day and I found one. I was like, what the heck is this doing here? But like the more confusing thing about this is that if you have quick service meals left over, which almost never happens to me, but I've heard of it happening to other people, you can break them down as snacks. So good thing to know if you're going during Food and Wine, you can get a dining plan and actually split it up and use probably more quick service meals than you would at a lot of the kiosks. I think it's 1 quick service equals 2 snacks, but I could be very wrong.
Oh, wow. That would make Food and Wine like completely different planning wise.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've kind of been wanting to look into, is that like the actual breakdown of what it comes with, because the food and wine end of that would probably make the dining plan a lot more worth it.
I would think so.
So quick service meals, if you don't know, it's the general like counter service stuff. With the dining plan now included is one alcoholic beverage with your meals. So that's a nice little addition.
That's surprising, but
yes,
cool.
it's included in all of them now, which it wasn't before. You got charged for alcohol. Now I know for the table services, I'm pretty sure it's included still. Like you get the one alcoholic beverage, but if you were to order like a soda or an iced tea or something like that, you would actually get the refill on that versus your alcoholic beverage, which you would. So,
well, I mean, that makes sense, but
yeah,
I'm just surprised they offer it on alcohol at all. So it's good to know. Another thing I didn't know before this.
And then the Disney dining plan, which is the base one that I really wish they would rename these because this is confusing. And then there's two more above that. So the Disney dining plan is one quick service meal per night of stay, one table service meal per night of stay, and then 2 snacks and the resort mug. Which this is the one that, like, if I do a dining plan, which I usually do, this is the one I usually go for because we like to have that sit down in the middle of the day. And then I think with this one, you get yes. So you get the entree, one non-alcoholic beverage or alcoholic beverage for guests 21 and older. This one also includes buffets and family style meals too. So like Ohana's covered table service, like all of your buffets are, and you also get your entree and your dessert too. So if you're going to eat all of that food, it's probably worth it. The biggest complaint I've heard about the dining plan is just it's a lot of food to make it actually equal out the cost. But
I have heard the same.
And then the one that they just added this year is the Disney Dining Plan Plus. Have you noticed the naming pattern here? Because it's
yes,
as confusing as it gets.
Stuff.
This one includes 2 meals, any combination of table service or quick service. So you can kind of switch on and off on what you want. This is the most flexible of them. Again, 2 snacks, 1 resort mug. So pretty much however you want to eat in the park, go get it. And then the last one is, this is the one that I still don't understand how people book, the Disney Deluxe Dining Plan, which is 3 meals, any combination of table service and quick service per night of stay, 2 snacks, and 1 resort mug.
I'm sorry. I know that we don't do parks the way that most people do parks, but I cannot ever picture myself going to 3 table service meals a day.
That's the thing. Like I can probably see how someone would think that's worth it because like you're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, but like the way that we do Disney and the way that we do the dining plan is breakfast is a snack because most of your like quick service snack stuff is covered. You could probably burn both of your credits getting like a Joffrey's coffee and a donut. Like there's your 2 snacks. And then you get your quick service for lunch because you're still running. And then you do a table service at dinner because you get your break at the end of the day.
Right.
I've actually found most of the time I end up with snacks left over. Like that's the one credit I always seem to not be able to burn because I don't really snack at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Though, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I remember being in the confectionery and I think it must have been a family of like 3 or 4, but they were on the last day of their trip. And I think they said that they had over 20 snack credits between all of them saved up, that they were all just like, they had so many Rice Krispie treats.
Yeah, that's the thing that like is nice because a lot of the like the confectionery and stuff, you can get the to-go stuff. Like you can do it at I think we did it the last time at Goofy's Candy Co. where we redeemed it for a bunch of stuff that we knew we would eat on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's nice because then you can also bring stuff home and like save it as kind of a like, you know, if you want to get a Miss Disney snack. But like the thing that I always seem to find is the end of my trip between the 2 of us, because all of this is shared. So like it'll actually show. You obviously haven't done dining plan at all, right?
No.
Okay, so the most confusing thing about dining plan is that when you go to anywhere that accepts it, it'll give you a printout of what you have left. Now you have to remember that it shows everyone in your party on that menu or on that receipt. So if we do 6 nights, we get 12 table service credits because there's 2 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So don't look at that as, oh, I can go to 12 places. It's every credit gets used like per person. So then what gets even more fun is at the end of your trip, you look at the receipt and then you're like, oh, the 2 of us were here for 6 days. We have 24 snack credits that we never used. That's the one thing. Like I think they give you too much on that, but I'm not going to complain because I like that family tend to just burn my snack credits at the end and hope for the best.
Mm.
We did do flower and garden. We used a couple of them the last time we were there, which was nice because it's nice that the booths accept those.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that, and that, I don't know. I mean, we don't generally stay a lot, but I could almost see trying to plan a free dining package if they had it around one of the festivals and doing that. That might actually turn out to be worth it.
So according to Mouse Savers, because I had to Google this because I haven't done this in a while, apparently you can exchange 1 quick service credit for 3 snack items.
What?
So that really changes the game there, I think.
I mean, I would think that just 2 of the booth offerings are usually more than 1 quick service meal. So the fact that you could get 3 out of 1, that seems like a great deal.
Yeah, and you kind of have to look at the booth menus because I know not every booth gives like snack conversions for all of their menu items. Like I know the one thing I really wanted at Flower and Garden was available for that. I think it was the one cheesecake thing, the honey cheesecake. That was, but I don't remember really looking at it for anything else. And apparently you can also trade in your dessert for a soup, side salad, or other side item, that's pretty good. I mean, if you want a dessert or you want a soup instead of dessert.
To each their own, but that doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
I do have to say though, some of the desserts like that they offer at the quick service counters they tend to be repeats of what you've had at other quick service places. So like, I don't know that I could eat the same chocolate cake 3 times in one trip. I think it's really it for a lot of these credits on here.
So overall, as somebody that has done the dining packages, what's your overall takeaway? Do you think it's worth it to do?
General takeaway from it is always kind of look at what's important, I think is my general takeaway. I know that I'm not getting the use out of my dining plan when I go, but I like not having to budget all of my money out and plan in advance where I'm going to go, just because like I know that I can get a flat rate out of my dining plan. I know that it's going to cost me X number of dollars per night. And I know that when I go, the only thing I have to worry about is gratuity, which like, really, what does that come down to when you're paying for just the tip?
Right.
So for me, I think it's totally worth it because it's one less thing I have to worry about while I'm on vacation.
That's a good point. And I think that is probably the easiest part of the trip to kind of financially get out of hand if you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. And I also think like one of the things that I always say is I think the dining plan has offered, it's allowed me to eat places that I normally wouldn't. Cause I think if I was money conscious on my Disney trip, I would eat a lot of quick service meals because it's the most affordable. I mean, and it's quick and easy, but like, when you look at what's included, there's a lot of places that would cost a decent amount of money and you get to get more out of your mileage, I think. Which for me, that's really what I like about it. But that said, if you're someone that's really penny pinching, like to get the most out of the dining plan, like we've done the math, you would have to eat at buffets every night. You would have to eat like Ohana 6 times on your trip, like to come out ahead of the cost of it, which is very crazy to think about. I know that's a lot of food, and a lot of people get hung up on the fact that like this is something that you would have to really be conscious of. And I just think for me, the idea of not worrying about paying extra expenses or having to throw stuff on my credit card, I really don't want to, is far outweighs the amount of food I would have to eat to make it worth it.
Okay.
What about you, as someone that's never done it? If you were offered a free dining plan with all of this info in mind, do you think you would take it?
I mean, I think I would. I would want to see how much it changed how I like ate and dined at the park, like how I plan stuff out and everything too. And I feel like I kind of need to, just because this seems to be like one of the most asked about things with trip planning, and it would be good for me to know. So yeah, I think if they offered, I would try to take advantage of it just to kind of see if I liked it or not.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most debated things that I would get in with people on Reddit specifically a lot, was like every time you see the free dining plan post, you see like 5 or 6 people that are like, dining plan's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. And to the defense, I kind of did say that earlier in this show. I did say that there are better deals, but like, even if you were to tack on a dining plan to your room discount, you probably would still come out ahead of the free dining deal. But at the same time, like, I can't really say that I wouldn't do it, because I have, in the past when I booked trips for us, that was what I looked for.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does kind of, like I said, for me, I think it changes specifically where we would have eaten. And I think that it's given me the chance to try different things. Like as much as I rant and rave about Ohana, I don't think I would have gone back if I had to pay for it, because that's a pretty pricey meal.
Oh, that's
and
for
like,
sure.
well, that's the other thing too, is like we went on our last trip, we went to Ohana the first day that we were there, and I had been, but it had been a while. And then Andy had never been before. We left and she was like, oh my God, that's my new favorite meal. We should do this again. We immediately went on the app and found a reservation and debated about canceling another reservation for it. And that's something that I know that I had the privilege to do, specifically because I didn't have to pay for that meal. But we didn't. And to make you feel a little worse about that meal that we almost canceled was Art Smith's Homecoming, which
Really?
I'm glad we didn't, because that ended up being probably my second favorite meal of that trip.
Man, I was about to say, yeah, Ohana and Homecoming are probably my 2 favorite restaurants on property right now.
Oh, yeah, it's the reason I can't wait to get back. But then I guess the last like couple little things I wanted to look at here, I accidentally closed the calendar. Just some of the good deals that they've run in 2019. We don't have to go over all of them, but 20 to 35% off for Disney Visa card holders. We talked about that earlier. They ran that twice in 2019. When free dining ran, the general public's discounts were oh, they actually didn't that year. That's weird. They ran free dining, but they didn't run a general public discount. If you were an annual pass holder, it was 25 to 35, same for Florida residents, and then 20 to 35 for Disney Visa card holders. So
it's pretty good.
That's a really good deal in contrast to free dining. I think the biggest deceptive thing about that is that Disney says free with free dining, and everybody's like, oh, that's a really big deal. And then at the end of the year, they tend to run lesser deals, because I guess that's when they start to ramp things up. But at the beginning of the year, you can usually expect to find some really good stuff. And they usually are like solid 3 months of the same deal, but Disney always tells you when they're going to end. Sometimes they will extend them. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Any general thoughts on Disney deals? Any ones that you may have to take advantage of in the future?
I'm definitely going to start looking more into the Disney Visa ones, because that's seriously something that I don't think I've ever looked at. And I've had a card for 4 years now, I think. So it's really something that I need to look into more. Obviously, we look pretty often on pass holder and Florida resident hotel discounts just because we always look and there's certain hotels that we want to stay at that we haven't stayed at yet, and we think, oh, let's just do one night and just to say we did it or something. So we look around at that a lot. But yeah, definitely gonna do that. And like I said, I might see how a dining plan works out at one of the festivals if we do kind of a stay there with that. That might be something I try.
I've been talking to a lot of my friends that are Florida resident annual pass holders, and a lot of them have been saying, like, I wish Disney would give us some kind of dining plan, which, like, there's absolutely no way Disney would ever come out ahead if they included a dining plan with annual pass, but that's another discussion.
Not included. I mean, there's tables in Wonderland, but
I think that's like 20%, right?
It's 20% on everything, and it includes alcohol, I believe, last I checked too, which is kind of a big deal. So
yeah, that is a big deal. But I would be interested to see what Disney's option for like a dining plan for AP Florida resident style stuff would be, because you can't get it if you're just going in, like, you have to book a room to book the dining plan.
Right.
So it's an interestingly weird dynamic.
Honestly, if it's going to happen any year, I see it happening into this year or next year. I feel like that there's not going to be as many pass holders renewing just with everything going on, and maybe Disney needs to throw something out there to tempt them.
I will say, one thing that I kind of noticed when I was looking at these deals is it seems like Disney will throw a good deal out for a short amount of time if there isn't a demand for like the hotel reservations, or like, because they can't really gauge that on park capacity. But if they want to fill rooms, Disney will throw out some like short burst deals, maybe a month or two, and they'll be pretty solid. I think when we come out of this, we're going to see some solid deals.
I think so too.
Which I may have to take advantage of. That may be the one thing that gets me to go back to Disney, as awful as that sounds.
Well, I'm sure you won't be the only one lured by that.
Yeah. So I guess that's a good place to wrap it up, unless you've got any final thoughts.
No, that was good. Very informative. I definitely learned a lot from this.
I'm just glad that I didn't waste all of that time on hours of research for nothing.